Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Alice and I do videos about sustainable minimalism but in a more reasonable and realistic way. And if you know me, you know that I can be quite critical about minimalism despite trying to be one myself. And today we are going to tackle another pillar of minimalism, that is the capsule wardrobe. Now, I stumbled upon the idea of capsule wardrobe quite at the beginning of my journey, and I thought it was a genius idea and I really committed to it for a while. But spoiler alert, it didn't exactly work out for me and I am no longer doing a capsule wardrobe. I am not entirely opposed to it in the sense that it's not a given that I won't go back to it, but for now this is really not for me. So in this video I want to explain, first of all, what were the positive sides of doing a capsule wardrobe, because there were some quite positive things. And second, I want to explain what were the problems though and why it didn't work for me. Personally, the biggest advantage of doing a capsule wardrobe was that it was simplifying my daily decision making. Now, it is true that we completely underestimate the amount of micro decisions that we have to do on a daily basis, and even worse, we underestimating the fact that they add up and they can really have a toll on our mind. So the idea is that if you simplify your micro decisions and you reduce them, then your mind will be clearer and fresher when you have to confront with the bigger decisions. And personally, I found that to be absolutely true. The idea of having a capsule wardrobe means that you have a smaller pool of choices and that everything more or less will fit you and everything you like and everything goes well with each other. That means that your decision making will be very, very easy. It's not so difficult to make outfits, especially if you're working with uniforms. And especially if you choose your outfit in the evening, which is something I do recommend if you are a busy person. So big plus side for me. And then kind of as a consequence to it, it's also a time savior. And this is actually a little bit tricky though, because it does save time in the long run, but it does take a little bit of time at the beginning of each season when you are pulling together your capsule. And if you are a beginner, it can be quite time consuming to really understand what you need and what you like, because you have to learn basically. So that wasn't really a problem for me, because as someone who really loves fashion, I actually enjoy that process. But if you're someone who doesn't particularly care or you don't particularly like it, then keep that in mind. It will require some time at the beginning, and to try and stay motivated, try to think that you are wasting time now to save a lot more time later. So it's still quite effective. And then as a third thing, of course, you're also saving money. Now, that is only provided that you are kind of doing a capsule wardrobe plus no buy, in the sense that if you really stick to those 33 items, then it will be a money savior. Of course, if you continue swapping things in and out, even if you always stick to a 33 total amount, then of course you're not saving money. But provided that you are sticking to a smaller wardrobe, it does. And that of course means that you have more money to save. That should always be your priority. And then you can also invest a little bit more money in having more sustainable clothing than just going to fast fashion. And it is how I actually could afford the majority of my sustainable items. Now, despite that, my capsuling experience was not really idyllic. The first problem I had is that pulling together a capsule as a beginner is extremely difficult and it can be very confusing. And that's because even though you have a very good information in the internet, when it comes to apply those information in your real practice, at least in my case, was super duper difficult. And I think that came down to a few factors. First of all, a complete lack of good example. If you try to look at the capsule wardrobe examples, they tend to be always the same thing, and they kind of fit in two categories that generally overlap. The super neutral wardrobe, in which everything is black and white, and the super casual wardrobe. Now, I don't really have a problem with the first one, because quite obviously I do fit in that aesthetic, but if you're someone who loves colors and pattern, that can be quite complicated. And I do actually have a problem with the second part, because I do have an office job and I can't be super duper casual. And the problem was that because I couldn't really find good example, I either tried to copycat other people's capsules or I fell into the trap of following wardrobe essentials. And believe me, that is really a trap, because there is no such a thing as wardrobe essentials, at least not at work on a universal basis. You need to understand what is an essential for you and your everyday life, and try to follow someone else's essentials will end up in wasting a lot of money on stuff that you actually don't really like and are not even that functional for your lifestyle. Believe me, been there, done that. So what I ended up doing is following a bunch of people that have nothing to do with minimalism actually, but it's just that their style or lifestyle are much more compatible with mine, so they ended up being a much better source of inspiration. So that's a little bit of an advice for you if you're trying to figure out your style and what really makes sense for you in your capsule. Try to follow people that have a style and lifestyle that makes sense to you more than very standard and stereotypical capsule wardrobe, because chances are that they won't work for you. The second problem I had is that as a beginner, I didn't have only 33 items of clothing. I have a much bigger wardrobe that I had to downsize to. And the problem is that understanding what are exactly the 33 items that will work for the next season is not so easy. And you will risk to end up with a wardrobe full of things that you absolutely love, but they are not functional, or that they don't go with each other. Or that you will end up with a very functional wardrobe but you don't really like. And I have done both mistakes. So my biggest advice here is don't really jump into it. Do not select your items and then declutter everything else. Try to store it instead, so that if you see that you made a mistake, you can always go back and basically change it without having to buy new stuff. So the next problem is that it is very difficult for me to stick to those 33 items every single season. So what I learned is that when it comes to winter, for example, I have no problem sticking to 33, probably even less items, because my life is pretty stable. There are not that many changes in terms of what I'm doing or weather. When it comes to summer though, that becomes very, very tricky. First of all, because summer in Belgium is extremely unpredictable. You have a very chilly day and very, very hot day. Plus, also my life changes quite a lot because, I have my regular work, then I have some very important work events that require me to be very formal, and then I have holidays in which I'm the opposite of formal because I spend my time either at the beach or on the top of a mountain. That means that it's quite difficult to combine all these needs in 33 items. Chances are that I need possibly 40 or even 50 items. Point being that I think that if I'll ever go back to have a capsule wardrobe, probably I will have something like 30 items in winter and that's 60 in summer, instead of having like 30, 30, 30, 30, if that makes sense. The next issue I have might sound superficial, but it is that I do love fashion. I do love playing with my accessories and with my outfits. So sticking to 33 items, including accessories, bags, shoes, literally everything, can be quite difficult to me. It's quite restrictive and I'm not sure I really willing to do that. And the last point, and this is something that I already touched in a different video, so I will go fast here, is that I learned that at least for me, sticking to a number is detrimental, because I became completely obsessed with that number. I decluttered recklessly just so that I could say that I reached that number, and that didn't really stopped my overconsumption, because I was constantly swapping in and out things using the one in one out rule, because in the end the total amount were always 33 items, but I was actually buying a lot of stuff. So I am not doing that anymore. I'm not really focusing on a number anymore. So that's really why I said that I don't do a standard capsule anymore, because I don't try to reach 33 items of clothing. My aim instead is to have a smaller wardrobe filled with things that I absolutely love, that are functional for my life, and that have really a value in my life. And that was it for today. Thank you so much for having arrived till here. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and subscribe to my channel. I am a very, very small channel, so that would absolutely mean the world to me. And if you want to leave me a comment, I do my very best to always reply to all the comments. I maybe don't do that immediately, but I do that as well. Until the next time, bye.